it really pisses off liberals. It pisses off liberals as much as it pisses off conservatives. Woke politics is actually really hurting Democratic candidates.
Ladies and gentlemen, Democrats are even realizing that wokeism means they are going to go the way of the dinosaur, that they're going to destroy themselves. You're starting to see Hillary Clinton being trotted back out as a potential candidate for 2024. She's reemerging on the political stage. How desperate is this party? It's a party that wants to commit suicide. They've embraced woke. And even the sirens of the Democratic establishment are starting to realize that this is a bankrupt ideology. Here from Morning Joe, ladies and gentlemen, the aha moment, the realization that when we go woke, we will go broke, we will destroy ourselves. Clip 6, go.
Headline here is that this is happening in San Francisco, in one of the most progressive cities in America. And you have parents, and this is a clear warning. We saw it from Virginia. We can now say, from Norfolk to San Francisco. You had parents in the Virginia election enraged that schools were shut down for too long, that there was too much distance learning. They were talking about critical race theory, which, of course, we've heard is not taught in Virginia schools. But still, you're hearing the same thing about a rebellion. And I've been saying this for a couple of years. People get really angry. Some people in their mom's basement on Twitter get really angry and tweeting out, how dare you, talking about woke politics. It really pisses off liberals. It pisses off liberals as much as it pisses off conservatives. Woke politics is actually really hurting Democratic candidates. And you take that and you take again, Asian Americans and the feelings that they're actually being preyed upon, not just physically in violence, but also politically. And it was a toxic mix, and a very liberal city threw out 3 progressive board members, and it wasn't even close.
When you've lost Morning Joe, ladies and gentlemen, you have a huge issue, but he's right. He's right. He's simply trying to sound the alarm. Democrats need to lay off woke politics in schools. It's hurting us in the polls. There is no way out of this tailspin. The plane is going to crash, and they're dragging Hillary Clinton out of the morgue. They already dragged Joe Biden out of the morgue. They have nothing to hang their hats on. 30 retirements. The last time there were this many retirements was the Republican sweep in 94. 40 retirements between 92 and 94 for Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a huge scandal going on back then. There is no scandal right now. The scandal is the Democratic Party. The scandal is woke politics. The scandal is the COVID mandates. And the people who are the cheerleaders for the Democratic Party are screaming for change. A Politico report 2 days ago showed that the Republican advantage on the ballot has ballooned to 14 points. A 14-point Republican advantage on the generic ballot. The school board issue is huge. The most powerful group of people in America are parents. Parents have, you could call, vested interest in the future of this nation. Parents have skin in the game, blood in the game. They want a place for their kids to exist. There's a reason why parenthood is often the cornerstone of all societies and the rock upon which you can build a society, because parents are invested in providing a better future for their kids. Ladies and gentlemen, even inside of the bluest, arguably, city in America, the parents are taking scalps. In San Francisco, a school board recall has ousted one of the most incompetent and woke school boards in the country. Clip 7, go.
To a developing story out of San Francisco, where voters last night ousted 3 members of its Board of Education in a landslide recall election.
This is a huge story.
Yeah,
politically, nationwide, this is a huge story.
The recall of each member was supported by more than 70% of voters. Critics accuse them of putting progressive politics over priorities like the pandemic. For example, the board was criticized for trying to rename schools when many parents...
Including schools named after Abraham Lincoln and Dianne Feinstein.
And this is when many parents wanted to focus on the reopening of schools. Some of the schools targeted were named after Abraham Lincoln, as Joe said, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and even longtime U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein. The election also galvanized Asian American parents after the board changed admissions requirements for one of the city's most prestigious high schools. San Francisco Mayor London Breed, who supported the recall, will now have to appoint replacements.
This was the city's first recall election in 40 years. The landslide decision against the current school board means that President Gabriel Lopez and members Allison Collins and Fuyuga Mongola will officially be removed from office. This is in San Francisco. This is the parents' revolution in San Francisco. This isn't Virginia. This isn't purple Virginia with plenty of red counties and Republican members of Congress. This is dark blue San Francisco, because when you mess with the kids, you mess with our future, you truly start to feel the pain of wokeness. You start to understand the cancer that is wokeness. This is a school board that spent its time over the last couple of years to rename a school named after Abraham Lincoln. That's right. This is what happens when you try to rename schools in the middle of a pandemic, exclaimed David Thompson, a.k.a. Gabraham Lincoln. Incredible. It is remarkable to see how these embarrassing, disgraced school board members are spinning this. They're calling these parents white supremacists. Ladies and gentlemen, the sting is gone. The idea that someone's a racist or white supremacist, a Russian asset, the sting is gone. Your words mean nothing any longer. Words are cheap. Actions last forever. At least 100 recall backers gathered in the back room of a very popular cafe in San Francisco to celebrate. Oh, this isn't a bunch of Republicans. Do I look like a Republican? Said one person in head-to-toe rainbow drag. All right. The recall has galvanized the city's grassroots efforts of frustrated parents and community members pushing for the trustees' removal and a reopening of the schools during the pandemic. The board's focus on controversial issues like renaming 44 schools and ending merit-based admissions in the Lowell High School system, a very prestigious system. The voters of this city have delivered a clear message that the school board must focus on the essentials of delivering well-run school systems above all else, said the mayor, who's just been a hot mess. She's next to go in San Francisco. Breed said that she is critical of the school board and has been addressing significant budget deficit, hiring a new superintendent, and navigating the emergence of the pandemic. The school district has a lot of work to do. Yeah, okay, London Breed, the one who's been seen out partying maskless. While she masked children in school, while she masked you, it's all collapsing for these people. And so let's end on a positive note. The old way is crumbling. The Great Reset is turning into the Great Awakening. The people who have had power for the better part of a generation because you were asleep now understand that you are waking up. It's why you're watching Democrats turn into Republicans all of a sudden. You can see Democrats from across the country suddenly, before opening up, stopping lockdowns, unmasking children, killing their vax mandates. They realize that judgment is around the corner. We won't forget. We stand for God, family, country. We were born free men and women in this sweet, beautiful nation, and we intend to stay that way. And the way we're going to stay that way is we're going to rip these people from office. We're going to push the powerful institutions. They're just brick and cement, ladies and gentlemen. We can push them right into the Potomac. We can end the administrative state, and we can turn America back into the beautiful place that it used to be when we had localized government and localized control. That's where we need to go back to. Your mayor in your town should be more powerful than your governor and more powerful than the President of the United States. The federal government needs to be locked back down into what it was intended to be. A place that would officiate trade and perhaps be able to conduct war with congressional approval. We have seen the oppression metastasize and grow in this country, and now it's time to get out the scalpel. Nary, it may be time to get out the hacksaw and to be able to start lopping off the cancerous organs that allow these autocrats to rule over us. The difference between you and an autocrat is that you don't ever want to control another human being. And remember, the great switch, such a lie. They're the people who owned slaves. They're the people who wanted Jim Crow. You hear a lot about Jim Crow these days. It was Democrats who made Jim Crow. It was Democrats who fought the Civil War. They have always wanted to control and own other people. It's in their nature. The natures of the authoritarian. I'm not saying all Democrats are bad. A lot of my friends, Democrats, they call themselves DeSantis Democrats down in Florida. But ladies and gentlemen, it's the way of the authoritarian. They have no family, they have no God, all they have is power. So that is what we must strip from them. And it's going to hurt. It's going to take will to power, and that is what we have. Will to power.